And eventually you'll get to a place where you can look back and say, wow, I've grown. I am no longer the person that has been so burdened by these expectations or so burdened by these unhealthy thought patterns. Hi, my name is Lan. My background as a mental health professional, I have a licensed clinical social work degree and certification in trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. I do a lot of work with other BIPOC and Asian Americans, and we work primarily with trauma, dealing from intergenerational trauma to childhood trauma to traumas within relationships. It really all kind of stems from a lot of earlier childhood, and that's where I come in, and hopefully to help some of my clients untangle some of those really pesky, unhealthy thinking habits, a lot of different lies about themselves. They may have believed that they're unlovable or worthless, and I just want to be there to support them and say that that is not true at all. But my background is primarily in trauma. I do other work with anxiety, depression. I also work with couples, and a lot of my clients seem to be interracial couples. I love working one-on-one with individuals. I love hearing about their stories. I love sharing whatever ways that I can help, whether it be my own lived experience, my own experiences with self-healing, my own journey in healing, and then offering that kind of in a restorative and full circle moment. That's how I like to look at therapy. How I see self-healing is generally this curiosity and an innate sense of wanting to improve yourself, and all of that kind of wrapped up in wanting to learn more about the things that maybe trip you up to the ways that you can kind of overcome or improve. So when I think of self-healing, it's very much a sense of resilience that starts from within. A lot of people may start with just wondering, is this how life is always going to be? And realizing that that's not the truth of the matter. So at the very core of self-healing, there's hope. And I do think that is the defining characteristic that helps a person to even seek self-healing. Other people would rather numb it out or would rather distract themselves. Whereas I think self-healing is definitely an internal process that someone would go through in order to seek the type of recovery, the life that they want to live, maybe the relationships that they want to have. So repairing old relationships, or maybe making new ones, or learning a different way to relate to yourself. Maybe your self-talk has never been too healthy. Self-help and self-healing really comes from that innate hope that really aspires to more than what is available at the time, more than what is known. And usually the possibilities are very optimistic, and there are lots to discover, but I do think it comes first from a sense of hope about changes that can be made to better yourself and better others. With self-healing, this is like an everyday process, an everyday journey for myself and for my clients. There's not a single day where you don't either make a move towards self-healing or make a move towards staying stuck or staying stagnant. So how I like to see my journey is that it really began with my own trauma in early childhood, and knowing that innately there was something just fundamentally wrong with the environment. At some point I believed it was myself, but at some other point I believed that no, it wasn't my fault, and there was something wrong within my environment that I hoped to discover the answers and the truth. So there was a lot in myself that sought out the truth of my reality, of my circumstance, of my own identity. And so my self-healing journey really began when I was diagnosed at the age of 13, going on 14, on my 14th birthday actually, with major depressive disorder. And for me, it felt like a life sentence. It felt like, wow, this is something I have to deal with the rest of my life. I am damaged goods. I am broken beyond repair. And that's how it felt, and that's how it it kind of weighed on me at the time and into my early adulthood. Self-healing for me really began when I started to get into therapy myself. I started to research the matter on my own. I started to look into spirituality and faith and my belief systems. I started to question everything that I once knew to be true, and a lot of it finding out to be false. I wasn't damaged beyond repair. I wasn't a lost cause. I wasn't desperate, needy, or pathetic. It was that I knew there was something wrong within my upbringing. There was trauma that was obviously I was surrounded by it, and it was in my very family. And because of that, I really did believe that I had some contribution to it, as most children often do. What I did learn eventually was that I could no longer blame my past for making me who I was, but because I was stepping into self-healing, I could really reclaim what I thought was lost and then step into what I believe is my authentic self, my confident self, my outgoing and no longer intimidated by others self. I was no longer motivated by fear, obligation, or guilt. And that is something I worked very hard to overcome, because often with Asian cultures particularly, that's all you hear. You're expected to do something, and it's at the cost of maybe losing yourself, losing an important relationship. And so I found myself at crossroads wanting to make changes for myself that better just not only my current status, but it was definitely going to help my future, the future of my family, the future of my loved ones, my community as a whole. So it really began with my own desire to seek a life that was beyond what I knew at the time. And I knew that there had to be more than what I was living. I was feeling stuck. I was feeling hopeless, worthless. I was, on the outside performing very well, doing great in school. I was getting jobs. I was doing all the right things. But inside I felt empty. I felt like a fraud. I felt completely unseen and unheard. And so when I knew I had reached the end of myself, it wasn't like I had to keep going into myself to realize who I was. I actually went outwards to seeking connections with other people, with seeking connections with my faith and with my higher power. All of those things contributed to who I am today. And it really wasn't an emptying of myself, but really a reclaiming of the lies that I had once believed and really stamping it out with the truth. Yes, so I do believe because of my lived experience, I may have a greater capacity to empathize. So it's not that I can say I understand exactly what you're going through, but there's a part of me that can imagine and with compassion kind of empathize. So I do like to think of empathy as imagination plus compassion. And because I'm able to do both, and because I'm still able to relate to you as another human being with very valid feelings, needs, desires, I think that's where my lived experience kind of meshes with my clients. I become a little more relatable. Often clients will come to me saying, I don't really like when therapists just talk at me. I don't like it that they kind of come from this high and holy place of being a researched and scientifically evidence-based practitioner, but they want to feel understood. There needs to be an innate and almost organic connection about the chemistry that happens between two humans that is so imperative to healing. I think we are social beings, and ultimately self-healing is not just a self activity, but really a we type of community building exercise or restorative practice within our community circles, our spheres of influence, our families. I think it's very much, it becomes a self to an us. So my modalities generally are very integrative. I don't want to ever say I'm limited to just this type of prescription and we're going to follow it by the script. There is a time and a place for that, but I realize every individual is different and their needs fluctuate, even session to session, moment to moment. So my approach is very much person-centered and strengths-based. So wherever the client is, whatever their issues are, I am willing to meet them where they are. I'm willing to explore what their strengths are. I'm willing to discover what ways they can be challenged to grow. I like to think of myself as a coach. So I often do a lot of practice with my clients within the session. I may teach a tool, but I may ask them to try that tool within our session, and I can provide feedback. So a lot of my modalities come from a place of being trauma informed, but not only that, I use a lot of mindfulness. So I'm incorporating breath work. I'm incorporating deep breathing, diaphragmatic or belly breathing. I'm incorporating a lot of grounding techniques. So being in the present now. What senses are you picking up on? What do you smell? What do you feel? What are your sensations being muffled out by when you're stuck in your mind and stuck in your thoughts? So a lot of my approaches vary from person to person, but I do use a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy because I do believe there is a lot of agency in each client to be able to control how they feel and how they act based on determining their patterns of thought. So once we kind of identify their thought patterns, we kind of challenge them and then we reframe them to something that is more healthy or realistic. I believe that's when clients feel empowered to be able to take ownership of maybe their part in unhealthy relationships. But at the same time, they feel empowered to change the dynamic. They don't have to continue to play into unhealthy cycles of relating to others, of relating to themselves. But they begin to see that they do have more control over themselves and over their immediate, locus of control, rather than being controlled by something that happened to them in the past. So 3 concepts of self-healing. I really think there has to be, even in the darkest of times, a glimmer of hope. And if it's not the hope that they can do it on their own, it's the hope that they can walk with someone who can hold that hope for them, just kind of on loan, if you will, until they can really feel that they have the capacity to take hold of that hope for themselves. I would say hope. I do think there has to be a level of wanting to be curious and to learn. So a lot of my clients are eager to learn, are eager to explore different topics about themselves, about how to cope, that maybe others who aren't as versed in wanting to be open to the unknown as people that are, very quick learners and very self starters in that way. So I would say curiosity and hope. But I would say the third one is, so the 3 qualities I would say is hope, curiosity, coupled with, learning, and then perseverance. Because again, recovery, self-healing is never a one and done. It's never a linear process. You often hear that it's kind of cyclical in nature. There's ups and downs. It's a roller coaster. It's 2 steps forwards, 3 steps back. And it's eventually you want to be moving in the right direction. I like to think of it as long obedience in the right direction. So you just keep doing what you know to be the right thing. You just keep putting that one foot in front of the other. And eventually you'll get to a place where you can look back and say, wow, I've grown. I am no longer the person that has been so burdened by these expectations or so burdened by these unhealthy thought patterns. So I do think those 3 components, hope, curiosity, and perseverance. If you're considering self-healing or any kind of therapy, I would really recommend that you stay hopeful about the process. As with most things, it will take a lot of practice. It's going to take a lot of commitment. And so I would hope that whoever's interested in bettering themselves, they would keep an open mind about what that process might look like, and that they would keep committed to the process. It might not look the way that they would like it to look, but believe me, the risk is definitely worth it. So I hope anyone considering self-healing therapy, that there's that hope that life can get better, and the truth is it can. So I really hope that people will stay optimistic about the prospects of healing, and that they will continue to seek healing and bettering themselves, not only for themselves, but for their children, for their future, for the legacy that they hope to leave behind. So don't get all of your hopes up for that special therapist. There's no silver bullet that's going to help you heal instantly. So just temper your expectations and know that there's someone out there for you. So I hope that anyone invested in self-healing, in therapy, will reap the rewards if they don't give up, and that they keep heading in the right direction. So I hope you're able to find someone who can walk with you on that journey and can get you to a place of healing where you can really see all the growth that you've made, all the improvements that you've made. So don't give up, and good luck.